Hello, welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man. In this week we will be looking at a blue-red Wizards deck that features some of the Wizards tribal cards from Dominaria. Decklst comes from Holy Diva, Daniela Diaz. Found the Decklst on Twitter. It's a pretty entertaining deck. So let's give it a run. This time we are running up against Saheeli combo. So this is our opening hand. We have Soulscar Mage, Stormchaser Mage, and Adeliz the Cinderwind. If you're going with Dominaria, this will be a familiar card for you. Basically the idea of the deck is to play a bunch of wizards with prowess, and then we've got a bunch of spells that either pump the wizards or draw cards or give double strike or some other sort of combat advantage. So it's not far from being like a blue-red Kiln Fiend deck or Thing in the Ice style deck. Obviously with the wizard tribal, and then we've got Wizard's Lightning as like copies 5 through 8 of Lightning Bolt. So our opponent leads off with Flooded Strand into a Sacred Foundry, which comes into play tapped. So no turn 1 play, which is nice for us. We're playing this Soulscar Mage out here. We've basically got all our creatures. Well, not quite all, but certainly a very, very creature-heavy hand for this deck. Opponent plays Wall of Omens, which is kind of a nuisance, but we're just going to run out Stormchaser Mage and fly over the top here. I mean, in theory, we could have tried to kill the Wall of Omens, I suppose, with Mutagenic Growths, but I think we're just going to wait for Adeliz to hit the battlefield, and then we've got a couple of free spells that we can just hit. We'll play Saheeli, which is going to hit us for 1, and everyone gets the Scry. So, very clear what our opponent's on at this point. I'm going to Serum Visions here. I want to find my third land so we can cast this Adeliz. And we also draw into Wizard's Lightning, which can either help us kill off Wall of Omens or kill off Saheeli, depending on what we want to do here. So draw into Mountain, we see Mountain Artful Dodge. I'm not really keen on either of these cards, to be quite honest. I don't think we need the 4th land, certainly not to be a basic anyway. And then Artful Dodge is fine, but we don't actually have double blue mana, so we can't cast it twice in one turn, which is one of the good things it can do. Obviously it does let us attack through a Wall of Omens, but I think I bottomed it. I think we're looking for something else. We've got flyers, so unless our opponent plays a flyer, which I'm kind of doubtful that they will, I think we're okay if our Soulscar Mage can't get through. I still think we've got plenty to hit through for lethal with the cards we've got in hand, so decide to bottom that and see if we can find something else. Maybe a burn spell or something similar would be handy. So I'm going to attack both at Saheeli here. Bumblets with Wall of Omens. Decide to try and get rid of the Wall of Omens rather than kill Saheeli, because I think Saheeli at 1 is fine. We attack here, put Saheeli to 1. I suppose that's kind of dangerous, given that our opponent could play Felidar Sovereign and just win the game next turn. So maybe that was the wrong way to go about it. In hindsight, I think I thought, well, actually, yeah, because Felidar Sovereign will blink the Saheeli, so it'll come back on 3 loyalty. I think I thought that because it didn't have the -2 ability ready to go, it would be fine, but that's not the case. So that was probably, well, maybe a bad play, I don't know. Opponent finds a Wall of Omens again, so I think in hindsight we probably should just got rid of the Saheeli. Draw Vapor Snag, which is potentially going to come in handy. I think we're just going to play Adeliz here and attack with everyone. So we can use Mutagenic Growth here, but I don't think it's necessary. We're going to take out Saheeli here with Adeliz, attack for 1, and then hopefully set up a big attack next turn, depending on what our opponent has. Opponent finds their 4th land, and does have the Felidar Guardian, which could have been deadly earlier. due to me not killing Saheeli when I probably should have done. So certainly got more than enough to kill our opponent now. Actually, it probably only takes one mutagenic growth, does it? So we attack here, we can mutagenic growth. Actually, no, we're going to Vapor Snag the Feldar Sovereign. Yeah, so Vapor Snag and plus mutagenic growth is going to be enough for lethal. So the Vapor Snag puts our opponent down to 11. We mutagenic growth. And then we've got 11 power, attacking between the Storm Chaser Mage and Adeliz. So and we're going to get to kill off this Wall of Omens as well. So that all works out very nicely, and we wrap up game 1. So yeah, that all works out very well. We could have done a whole lot more damage with this becoming immense and the mutagenic growth as well, if we so desired. But I thought it was best to keep that information hidden for now, given that we were already going to win this game. So let's have a look at sideboarding. Okay, so here we are with the sideboard. I don't really know the best way to sideboard this deck. It's kind of difficult. You don't want to be taking out too many pieces because then you obviously limit your ability to sort of combo off, as it were. I mean, it's not quite comboing, but to get aggressive. And obviously, if you cut down on spells, then you've limited your spells. And if you've cut down on your creatures, then obviously it's much more difficult to kill your opponent because you're lacking creatures. So in terms of what we want to bring in, potentially Vapor Snag, I suppose, because that could break up the combo by bouncing back a Feldar Sovereign. In theory, so that could be useful. Yeah, I mean, I suppose a lot of their creatures have sort of come into play abilities, which obviously makes Vapor Snag not quite so good. So maybe Artful Dodge is probably the better way to go against their deck, but Vapor Snag can be useful, so it's maybe a consideration here. In terms of other cards, not a whole lot. Forked Bolt is actually quite useful. They tend to run Birds of Paradise. I think we see later that our opponent's also running Lotus Cobra and Lone Missionary. I'm not sure if Lone Missionary is a sideboard card, maybe, but Forked Bolt actually seems pretty handy. They've got quite a few 1 toughness guys to get around. Flame Slash as well seems good because they've also got quite a few bigger body creatures. So we saw Wall of Omens last time, obviously Feldar Sovereign, both with 4 toughness, which Flame Slash deals with nicely. So I think Flame Slash, Forked Bolt probably want to come in. Query on the Vapor Snags, not entirely sure. In terms of cutting cards, it's kind of tricky. Sometimes Snapcaster is a bit too slow for matchups, so I don't mind cutting maybe 1 or 2 of them from time to time. Also, Adeliz as the sort of top end threat is sometimes a card we want to look at cutting 1 of or shaving 1 of. It's certainly useful to have the flying here, but sometimes it's best just to shave the more expensive cards, which Adeliz is basically the most expensive card in the deck, because we're intending to play Wizard's Lightning for 1 mana, and most of the time we're Become Immense is going to be a 1 mana card as well. So yeah, those are generally the cards to look at shaving. You can cut Assault Strobe, but it's also the way you sort of win quickly, so it's kind of a dangerous game to play. Our opponent's deck's not the fastest though, so I feel like the Lightning Bolt Snapcaster combination could also win us the game. We don't necessarily need to win at sort of lightning speed, no pun intended. So I think it's kind of a tricky one as to how you want to go about it. If you want to go more aggro, then you can look at cutting the Snapcasters. And if you want to go sort of more tempo kind of gameplay, then obviously you want to keep the Snapcasters in. And then you can cut cards like Adeliz, or maybe some of the 1-drops, which are obviously going to get sort of clogged down on the ground in this kind of matchup. Okay, so here we're on game 2. This opening hand is fine, I guess. Got a Swift Spear, which isn't a wizard. The wizard's lightning is kind of awkward here because obviously, as I say, wizard's Monastery Swift Spear is not a wizard. So at the moment, this wizard's lightning is going to cost us 3 mana if you want to cast it. Kind of annoying. Also means we can't kill this Birds of Paradise. So if that was a lightning bolt, obviously the story would be very different. So that's kind of annoying, and obviously our opponent's going to get to accelerate out here. Plays into a Lotus Cobra. Looks like Saheeli probably here. Oh no, Reflector Mage. Yeah, so Reflector Mage bounces the Monastery Swift Spear, which is pretty annoying. Kind of sets us back pretty far. Going to another Mutagenic Growth. Just going to fetch Stomping Ground here before using the Serum Visions, because we're going to fetch anyway. So I just want to thin out the deck of lands to try and make this Serum Visions as good as possible. We're to Adeliz, which is kind of nice. We see Adeliz and Mutagenic Growth on top. Definitely bottoming the Adeliz. I think about the Mutagenic Growth. I end up keeping it on top. I don't know if that's the right thing or the wrong thing to do. The fact is we could generate quite an insane turn very shortly. Whether it be fast enough or not, I don't know. But obviously we can play Adeliz and then play 3 Mutagenic Growths and then follow that up with a Become Immense, and that's going to deal quite a lot of damage to our opponent, in theory anyway. So what would that be? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 plus 6, 15, 16 17, 18. So that's like 18 damage, so I suppose that would be lethal in theory. But obviously we've only got 3 mana next turn, and so whether that is going to be able to be played out, I don't know, but decided to go for it. Opponent plays Oath of Nissa into Lone Missionary, which pumps our opponent's life up to 21, which certainly makes things a bit more difficult for us. Draw the Mutagenic Growth as expected. Play Adeliz here. But unfortunately our opponent has a Path to Exile for it. So that's pretty bad news for us. Opponent's going to be able to attack for 6 here, put us down to 4. And we can see a Feladar's Sovereign here. Yeah. Sovereign comes in, bounces the Oath of Nissa, and our opponent can find a Birds of Paradise, which they're going to play out. So we draw into Artful Dodge, so in theory we can do quite a lot of damage, but it's not going to be enough to deal 21, unfortunately, which is kind of annoying, obviously. So yeah, we could play Monastery Swift Spear, we could Artful Dodge it. We're only on 4 life now, so these Mutagenic Growths look a bit lame. We can only actually use 1, so we can Mutagenic Growth the Monastery Swift Spear for free, and then Become Immense, which racks up to a fairly solid amount. We can also use Wizard's Lightning as well, but our opponent's still going to be alive after that, and yeah, next turn we're dead. So yeah, we're kind of close. You can see here the potential. Had we not lost so much life, I think we would have, we might have been able to pull out a win here, or something close to a win. So let's see what this adds up to. I'm very bad at maths, or not very good at doing quick maths. So this is some Monastery Swift Spear, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 11. 11 plus 7, 18, 19, 23. So if we could play all our spells in our hand, plus the Monastery Swift Spear, we'd be able to deal the 21 damage. We don't actually have enough mana for that, I don't think, but we would have Actually, yeah, we could have come pretty close. We could have Monastery Swiftbeard, Artful Dodged, Triple Mutagenic Growth, and then become Immense Wizard's Lightning. So there is 21 points of damage in our hand, I believe, but unfortunately we don't have the life to cast all of these mutagenic growths, and that unfortunately leads to our downfall. So there was a winning path in here, and maybe we could have found it, but unfortunately didn't work out for us on this particular game. So here we have game 3. This is our opening hand. It's kind of awkward. Obviously not ideal. We've only got one land. We don't have any 1-drops. But we do have Serum Visions. This deck, I'd argue, doesn't really mulligan particularly well. I've had a lot of times where you kind of mull to oblivion, mull a 7-card hand, and then you get a horrible 6-card hand, and then after that your chances, I think we're only running 18 or 19 lands, and so then you end up with a no-lander, and then you kind of just, it's very difficult to win any games when you've only got like 4 or 5 cards, because obviously the deck is kind of based around rattling off a load of spells with a creature in play, which is very difficult to do with minimal cards. So decided to run with this. We're going to do Serum Visions. That finds us a Swift Spear, which is going to be pretty handy, and we find our second land. There's also a Lightning Bolt, which could be useful. I end up bottoming it because I think it would be more useful to us to find the third land, so we can actually use these Snapcaster Mages, than it is going to be to draw another Lightning Bolt. We've got 2 Wizard's Lightnings, so I think ultimately we're better off just bombing that and trying to find the third land so we can actually use these Snapcaster Mages. Opponent just leads off with a Forest. Fortunately no mana accelerant, so we're just going to be able to attack for 1 here with a Storm Chaser Mage. Could have played with a Swift Spear, but this is a better use of our mana at the moment, and obviously because it's not a wizard we can't keep up Wizard's Lightning by playing it. Opponent plays a Wall of Omens, which is kind of annoying, as it always is. We draw into a second Swift Spear though, which is pretty good, so we can actually attack through this Wall of Omens here. If we hadn't drawn a Swift Spear, I think we'd think about using Wizard's Lightning to kill off the Wall of Omens. Try and make sure our creature goes through. Well, there's Oath of Nissa, finds a Wall of Omens, I think. Yeah, second Wall of Omens comes down. Draw into Soulscar Mage, which is really nice. Again, we could kill off one of these walls here, but I think we're just going wide at this point, and I mean, I don't know whether it's the right thing or not to do, but our opponent's on 13. We've got 6 points of burn in our hand and then 2 Snapcasters, so we are not far away from just being able to burn our opponent out. So I don't think I really want to waste these Wizard's Lightnings on hitting creatures. We'll play Lotus Cobra into Birds of Paradise, into Lone Missionary, which puts our opponent back up to 16, irritatingly. Just going to attack with everyone here and see how our opponent blocks. We only really need to cast 1 spell to protect our creatures from blocks, unless our opponent double blocks Lotus Cobra and Lone Missionary on one of our prowess guys, which I think is fine. Is a fairly fine trade, to be quite honest. So just going to see what happens in terms of how our opponent wants to block. Opponent puts the walls on the Swift Spears and lets our Soulscar Mage and our Storm Chaser Mage through. Obviously the possibility to block here with Birds of Paradise. I figure this is probably the best time to get damage through. Our opponent's board is only sort of increasing in size, and this is a fairly generous no blocks on the Soulscar Mage and the Storm Chaser Mage, so I think we're going to take the opportunity to get some damage through for sure. Use the first Wizard's Lightning. I contemplate whether we should use the second Wizard's Lightning or not, because it might be that our opponent can just kill us next turn. They're going to have quite a lot of mana, and in theory they might be able to Saheeli Rai and Felidar Sovereign in the same turn. I think they probably just need a fetch land in order to do that. So yeah, I think we need to sort of be on the wary that we might be able to just be killed next turn. But ultimately, I think, as I say, this is probably the best chance we're going to get to damage in. We can put our opponent down to 4 here with this second Wizard's Lightning putting down to 10, and then we get 6 damage through with our unblocked creatures. So we just kind of have to hope that our opponent doesn't kill us here, and then opponent has enough blockers to not die next turn, but we've got double Snapcaster, so in 2 turns our opponent is definitely dead, and it might be sooner depending on how they play. Opponent plays a second Lotus Cobra into a Saheeli Rai, or Saheeli Ray, I don't know how it's said, and then copies a Wall of Omens to draw an extra card. Fetch land gets a double Lotus Cobra activation, also puts everyone down to 3. Another Saheeli comes down. This time our opponent pluses it. Not sure if I was our opponent. I think it's probably a bad idea because, as I say, cracking the fetch puts our opponent down to 3, and our opponent already knows that we're basically a Lightning Bolt deck. I mean, if we're playing Wizard's Lightning, we're definitely playing Lightning Bolts. So I think they put themselves in an unnecessarily dangerous position. It's unlikely that I'm going to be actually attacking Saheeli, so I think they should just -2 copying the Lone Missionary, gain 4 life. I can still see the reason why they would play that way, because you don't want to risk the second Saheeli dying, I suppose, if you're kind of fairly all in on the combo at this point. I mean, there's certainly ways that they could win without the combo, but it seems more likely that they're going for a combo win at this point. So yeah, I think they should have copied the Lone Missionary and gained up to 7 life, which obviously would have made it that much harder for me to kill them. So yeah, fortunately didn't die there. As I say, there was a possibility that our opponent would have Saheeli'd into Felidar Sovereign, and that would have been game over. Drawing to Opt, which is nice, but we're actually just going to be able to Snapcaster Wizard's Lightning here. I do the attacks anyway, just to see how our opponent would have blocked, which all would have been pretty favourable, I suppose. I mean, the walls would have just bounced off each other, we would have killed the Bop, and we would have killed the Lone Missionary, and then our opponent was kind of relying on hitting their combo. But yeah, we're able to just Wizard's Lightning here, and that'll finish off our opponent. So yeah, this went pretty well. This matchup seems okay. It's kind of difficult. Obviously, cards like Wall of Omens are certainly a nuisance to our deck, although we do have a few flyers, etc. And also cards like Reflection Mage, is that what it's called? Reflection Mage, I think that's what it's called. The bounce 3 mana guy who is a Reflector Mage, is kind of annoying for our deck. Obviously, on the positive side, they're kind of limited on removal. We saw Path to Exile, but I don't think there's any other removal in their deck as far as I'm aware. I mean, certainly there could be, but we didn't see a lot of it. So they're mainly just dropping creatures. And then obviously they've got their own combo aspect that we need to be wary of. But yeah, there's kind of difficulties with it. Obviously, ground stalls are a concern in this matchup, but we do have cards that allow us to get past those things, and we can interact with their creatures and things if necessary with the lightning bolts, etc. So yeah, kind of an interesting matchup. I also think that because they're not particularly fast, we might be able to just Snapcaster Bolt them and play a more tempo game, which is certainly an option for the deck. You could bring in the counter spells and things, and play that way. But yeah, it seems like an interesting one. I don't think Saheeli challenges us too much, and so I think we could take sort of either route and potentially be successful. So yeah, it was an interesting matchup, and we managed to pick up the win. Maybe could have won game 2 if we managed our life total a little bit better, but yeah, worked out pretty well.